In amateur photography, we're always trying to access our inner creativity, to create images that we hope will stand out from the crowd, or at least match the crowd. I'm talking here about the creativity we need while processing images on the computer, rather than the creativity we need while out with the camera. Creativity breeds creativity, and what I mean by that is our better ideas seem to come to us when we're sitting at the computer working on our images. Now, I don't think that's a big surprise, because when we sit at the computer and look at the thumbnails, we are asking ourselves a creative question. What does this particular image require? Now, this image is a simple, basic shot. We've got light mainly coming from behind the balloon, hence the silhouette. But it's not the most inspiring image, is it? Maybe if we could get rid of the distraction top left, the bushes down on the bottom left, and that boring sky could be removed, maybe we could add another sky. Then maybe I'd have a pretty good image, and in the past that would have constituted quite a bit of work, but it certainly was doable. Now, I recall cutting out balloons from a few years ago, being unable to retain all of those thin cables when I make my selection. So I didn't try. I replaced them using Photoshop techniques and layers. Now, that would have taken a little bit more time than some people would have been prepared to put in, and a few Photoshop skills as well. But now it's a whole lot quicker and easier. The sky I intend to put into this image is one of my own, so my creative, all my own work conscience is clear. It's an older image shot with a Canon 1DS, which was an 11 megapixel camera. Now, that pixel count is quite low by today's standards, but it's more than adequate here. Now, with the image opened up into Adobe Camera Raw, the very first place I always go to, in fact I generally have this set up automatically, is the optics section. I like to tick to remove the chromatic aberration and to use the profile corrections. Chromatic aberration is that colourful lining we sometimes see around dark objects against light objects. So it's quite important if there's any here to remove them, but I've become so confident in these tools, I just tick the box and move on. Now, following on from the optics, I'm going to go to the basic tab, and I'm going to go straight to the auto setting and give it a click. I tend to use this as a starting point, treating it almost like a preset, because I know the sliders on the right hand side are not going to be set badly for what I want to achieve here. And it's done a pretty good job. I like the way it's lit up the balloon just about perfect for another sky. The one thing it's done that's a little bit negative is it has raised that ugly sign on the side of the balloon. But maybe we can deal with that too inside of Photoshop just a little bit later. Now, because of the nature of the content in this image, I don't think there's a great deal more needs to be done. I like to introduce a little bit of clarity, but it doesn't really add a great deal. But I'll take it anyway. Maybe a little bit of vibrance just so I can feel I've introduced something to the basic auto setting. But the other thing I want to do is to go to my detail section and click to denoise this. Now, it was shot at 100 ISO, and we've raised the tones from quite a dark area here. Let me click to see the square we're looking at. So when I click, you can see the noise in the image, quite a lot, but this is doing quite a good job. I'm going to actually crank it up a little bit to about 70, and I think that's doing a great job. What we can do while we're here is let's have a look at the lines here. If I click over those lines, if we click to see a before and after, we can't see quite as much of the noise now. Now we've moved on to the balloon we can. But as I click on and off, look at the result on the fine detail of those lines. It actually improves them as well. It certainly doesn't take anything away. So I'm going to click Enhance. Now what Adobe Camera Raw is doing now is making a copy of this thumbnail in Bridge, and it's going to present it for me here. And it's going to employ that noise reduction I've chosen. So all I'm going to do now is open this up into Photoshop, because there's nothing much more we can do here. So what I'm going to do here is to fix some of these areas like the bushes and the top left. I've got a little bit of a rogue line coming in on the right hand side. I'm not sure if that's detrimental to the image or not, but we'll consider that later. There are a number of things we can do here, including generative fill. But what I'll use here is something else. Let's just go to my polygonal lasso tool. I'm just going to make a quick selection of that top part. And I think I'm going to be bold and add one selection to another and take all of that out in one go. Go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. In most cases this is going to do a pretty good job, and as you can see it's certainly going to meet our needs. There's the before, there's the after. We get a number of ways to output this. I'm going to keep things simple and quick and just click OK to accept those changes. Control D to remove that selection. Now what I'd like to do is to take a look at the sky that I've chosen. Because of the nature of the image itself, I think it's probably best if I choose a sky which is a little bit more of a sunset sky. Maybe before I do that though, let's just take a look at that Bailey balloons, because I think I would turn to the generative fill here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I think it's going to do quite a good job with this. I'm going to select the polygonal lasso tool again, just make a quick selection around these. It's got a little bit there that's a little bit annoying. And then up at the top here, I'm just going to click into the option and hit the enter key. I'm going to let this go in real time because the content aware fill is going to draw information from hopefully the rest of the basket and give me a reasonably good repair. I'm going to get 3 versions of this. That one doesn't look so good, does it? Looks a bit messy. That one looks a bit messy too as well. Don't like that very much. I'm going to make a slight change here. I'm going to go back to my layers. Let's drag that in the bin. Maybe I was a bit ambitious trying to take both of those away together. Let me try doing this in a smaller section. Is that going to help, I wonder? We'll soon find out. Now, in most cases, we're going to be replacing the detail there with content which is of a slightly lower quality than what we're actually have in the surrounding area. But given the content of this image and given what we're doing to it, I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. Look, I'm going to live with that, I think. That looks a pretty good repair to me. I don't think there's too much to choose. I think the third one I like best. So I'm going to go back to my layers. We could save this as a Photoshop file, of course, but I'm going to flatten this. Ready to move on, because I'm going to open up into Adobe Camera Raw the sky that I chose for this shot. This sky was my first choice. I never spent an hour trying lots of different skies until one worked. My base image is the balloon in semi-silhouette. So this sky is a natural choice, the sort of sky that would be natural to see behind the balloon. All I need to do with this image really is to hit that auto button, because all I need is a very small tweak of colour, clarity and contrast. For taste, we can always add a little bit of clarity, and then of course we would go down to the detail section and we would add a little bit of denoise if it's needed. But then I can open this up into Photoshop alongside the balloon. Now once I have the image open, I just need to save this sky before reselecting my original image. For speed and to save a bit of time on this video, I've gone ahead and done that, and I've just dropped this as a JPEG onto my desktop. So what I need next is to select my original balloon picture. Now from the edit menu, I need to select sky replacement. Now as you can see, it's obviously selected a previous sky that I'd used for another project. If we go to this drop down option here, what we'll find is we have a number of options, but the blue skies, the spectacular skies and the sunsets, these are all those shots that are provided by Photoshop. I don't want those, I want one of my own. So I've created a folder called Barries, as you can see. We can do that pretty easily from here. Once we create that, all I need to do is to go down to the little plus sign here and locate the image that I've just saved. So let's do that. Let me go to my desktop. There we are. That's the image I'm looking for. When I open that, I can select it. And there we have the image with the two matched together. Now we do have some options here. If I click into the main panel, we do have some sliders, but in practice, I find I rarely need them. There we have the finished image, and you'll notice that Photoshop creates a duplicate for us. So even now, we've still got our original balloon waiting for us. So if we wanted to try a number of different skies, we've got the opportunity to do that. Now what's good about this technique is all of those wires that are holding the basket beneath the envelope are all still in place. But of course so is that little stray line up on the top right. So let me zoom into that, because we don't want this to be picked up as a mistake, because it seems to be going off into nowhere. But it's pretty easy to fix. But if you want a foolproof way of fixing these things, don't actually apply any fix to the image itself. Create a new blank layer over the top of the image you want to fix. From the options on the toolbox or toolbar on the left hand side, let's select the spot healing brush. You can see I've got a very small brush here. But what we need to do is to look up to the top of the screen to make sure this little box is ticked to sample all layers, because what I'm going to do here is click and just paint down to that line. And then from there, I'm going to click, I'm going to hold the shift key and move right the way down here and click again. And if I've got my aim right, there's that line completely gone. And of course, I've not done any damage to the layer beneath, but at some stage, of course, we would want to blend these two together or flatten to finish. Now I've called this video Creativity Breeds Creativity, and for a couple of reasons. When I was first looking at the original image, a creative thought is what prompted me to try a new sky. The Replace Sky option wasn't available when this image was shot, but I'm glad that it is now, because in the space of a few minutes we can create an image with impact and appeal, and it's all our own work. With a little help from our software, of course, but we do need to have that creative idea first, otherwise the software is pretty useless. However, it doesn't end there, because I was pleased enough with the result to look at more of my old balloon images from the Bristol Balloon Fiesta in the UK. As a result, I have a new presentation that I'll link to below. So not only a good image sprang from a little creative thought, but also a presentation containing 54 images, the majority have never been edited until now, October 2023. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe, help me out with a like and share this video with your Camera Club colleagues. I'll see you next time.